I'm going to try my best to talk over the air unit that's running in here a little bit. This is the air compressor, just as I showed you all the other day. The blue item over there is the vacuum pump. So the air compressor, basically what it does is it takes the air that you and I are breathing right now, it pulls it in through a motor, and then it's got to go through a drying mechanism. There are also some moisture traps in line. You can see that black box there, that's a moisture trap. Basically what's going to happen is any of the moisture that it removes from the air, because you remember medical grade air has to be dry, any of the moisture that it removes through these copper lines in the floor are going to run into that drain right there. So that'll be important for us to remember as well. But once that motor's on and it's pulling in the air that you and I are breathing right now, it will compress it and hold it into that tank there. From there, the air is going to be compressed, and it'll go through this line over here, go through this line over here, it'll go through the moisture trap so any moisture can be taken out of it. It'll go up through this pressure reducing valve here. So the cylinder inside of this tank, this holding tank, the pressure inside of this tank can be read on that gauge right here, and you'll notice that there are two different units of measurement. You've got PSI and bars, so you want to make sure that you can look at those relatively well. Right now it looks like there's about, looking at it head on, roughly 90 PSI inside of that holding tank. So this gauge is going to tell me how much pressure is inside of this holding tank, as opposed to where this gauge over here is the reducing valve. So it's going to be reduced down to 50 PSI, which it is. That's going to allow 50 PSI to leave here and go to room 300, 303, and 307 of medical grade air. And as far as the on-off switch for this, you can turn it on or off here, but if you needed to kill power altogether, if you'll follow the electrical line on the wall, you'll notice that this one runs to the top box, so I could just pull that red lever down and that would kill power to the compressor. Talking about electricity, you'll notice this box number 2, or it says freezer on it. It's got a 2 here, but the one on the bottom, one on the top is going to be for the air compressor, one on the bottom is going to run to the vacuum pump. So this is the vacuum pump. You've got a gauge here. Notice that it's got negative inches of mercury, PSI, and kilopascals on here. Kilopascals are read both positive and negative numbers. The one that it's right now reading somewhere in the ballpark, let's see, those are the lines in between those are going to be in increments of 2, so it's negative 12, negative 14, negative 16, negative 18. It's reading negative 18 inches of mercury right now. This compressor is set to once the pressure begins to drop below negative 16 inches of mercury, the vacuum pump will kick on, and once it gets up to negative 26 inches of mercury, it'll shut off. So it basically pulls air from the lines out of 300, 307, and 303. Once this holding tank is full, it's going to vent the excess air through this large bore pipe all the way up through the roof. So you need to remember pretty much how this works. It almost works exactly the same way as the air compressor does, except instead of compressing air and pushing it out through the lines like this machine does, this is going to basically create a suction, if you will, and instead of pulling the air that you and I are breathing right now, it's going to pull air and create a vacuum on the lines that are the vacuum lines that are going to 300, 307, and 303. So that's essentially this room. So if you guys can tell me that much, there shouldn't be any problem with how things work in this room. That's it for this video.